Good morning, everybody. Brian Neubert here again from goldenblack.com, live in the old home office. It is Tuesday, May 5th, in case you've lost track. This is your goldenblack.com Daily Quarantine Simulcast. It is brought to you by Fouts Purdue Bookstores, Purdue Federal Credit Union, the 6th Street Dive Restaurant, First Source Bank, East End Grill, and the Charters Team Remax Ability Plus. Want to remind you once again, if you're looking for a hell of a dinner or simply to support our local businesses, you can do both by keeping in mind the following. The 6th Street Dive in Lafayette, East End Grill in Lafayette, Arnie's in Lafayette, West Lafayette, and all over the state, Bruno's in West Lafayette, and the Whitaker Inn in West Lafayette. All of them remain open for carrot orders. All of them, I'm quite certain, would love to hear from you. So we would appreciate it if you would keep them in mind for your dining needs during quarantine here. I've been taking suggestions for topics for this little endeavor that we've undertaken here the past 200 days or so, however long this has been. And I got an email yesterday from Larry suggesting I talk about next season's basketball team and scoring, rebounding, and defense around the basket. And I thought it jibed well with the Purdue basketball offseason agenda series I'm doing for goldenblack.com right now. I did Travion Williams yesterday because I think he was the most important, he was the most interesting, and he was the player I could do the most insightful job doing, and I wanted to pick the lowest hanging fruit first. So it is a very, very important element for Purdue next season to have a really strong presence around the basket. Travion Williams is their best player. Travion Williams is their most impactful player. Travion Williams, in short, is their guy. If you'll recall this past season, which probably seems like 100 years ago now, but it was not all that long ago, especially in the back half of the season, Purdue clearly invested in Travion Williams in a way where it indicated that Purdue felt he was their best chance. He was their go-to guy. They were running offense through him. There's some inconsistency there, but he certainly showed you what he's capable of at his best. And what Purdue would really like to have, I should say, is for Travion Williams to make that jump from one year to the next where he's consistent, he's aggressive, and he just makes that jump like Caleb Swanigan did from his first to second year. That's a mouthful of a comparison, but you have seen guys make a pretty marked jump here and there at Purdue from one year to the next. Travion Williams can be one of the best big men in college basketball. I think we can all agree on this. Purdue needs him to be next year because he is kind of their centerpiece, and he's even more important now with the questions behind him brought about by Matt Harm's transfer. So Purdue needs his best. Purdue needs him consistent. Purdue needs him productive, and Purdue needs more of it. Purdue needs him playing more minutes at a high level, and Purdue just needs a great season out of Travion Williams. It is an interesting kind of dynamic because Travion Williams is going to lead Purdue in scoring next season, most likely. Travion Williams is going to lead maybe the Big Ten in rebounding next season. Travion Williams is going to post an inordinate number of assists for his position. Travion Williams is going to do this, and this. And much like last season, it may not stand out the way that it should when a player has a season like that. A big part, and I talked about this all season long, stop me if you've heard this before, but I won't stop if you tell me to, is Purdue's strength on paper this season needed to be Travion Williams and Matt Harms. And those two guys, some more so than others, had good seasons, that perhaps not great seasons, but good seasons. But it didn't nearly matter as much as it would have otherwise because the Big Ten, every single team had some sort of preeminent big man or really, really good big man. And it just, Purdue's strengths weren't strengths because they were everyone else's strengths too. And when you look at next season, it may be the same damn thing because a lot of NBA decisions are hanging in the balance here. Luka Garza probably coming back. That's your National Player of the Year. Arguably your National Player of the Year, not officially your National Player of the Year, but he's likely to be back next season. Jalen Smith gone, I would think. So Maryland's big man most likely is gone. Daniel Laturo from Minnesota should be gone. So that's another one. Caleb Wesson from Ohio State. I would go if I were him, but I'm not him. Who knows what he will do? I think he's a better prospect for the NBA than he seems to be viewed as by people. But those are four guys in the draft right now. Trace Jackson Davis at Indiana, obviously, has already decided to come back. I could see him having a Jalen Smith type of sophomore year where he goes from one level to another very quickly and is one of the best big men, not only in the Big Ten, but pretty much anywhere. Don't even mention guys like Miles Johnson at Rutgers, who I love. John Teskey was at Michigan this year. He's gone now. The league was just loaded with big guys. Kofi Cockburn transformed the league. He was the most physically dominant player the Big Ten had. Who knows? He's in the NBA draft too. We'll see if he decides to stay or not. What does it tell you about the Big Ten in the post last year that I almost forgot Kofi Cockburn? How do you forget Kofi Cockburn? He is the Empire State Building, and I almost forgot him. And he was arguably the most impactful player in the Big Ten last season. And I know I'm not saying that to compare what he did last season to Luka Garza or to Cassius Winston, whoever it may be, but his presence, he was Isaac Haas, where Isaac Haas just affected games just by standing there. And that is what Kofi Cockburn did last year. He may be back as well next season. The league could be loaded with big guys again, great big guys again next season. If it is, then obviously Purdue could have a guy who in a lot of years would be the best big man in the Big Ten, who, might be part of a veritable cast of thousands as the co-best big man in the Big Ten. So the advantages Purdue needs to have are going to be really hard to make into advantages because of what he may be going up against every single day. But Trevion Williams obviously has to have a great season for Purdue next year to be as good as it can be. Purdue has to get a viable option behind him. They have to keep him out of foul trouble. He needs to be in the best condition he can be in to play X number of minutes. Purdue, the post should be strong for Purdue. Offensively, they're going to play through Trevion Williams. He's as good a one-on-one scorer, I think, as Purdue has had in the post. Obviously Isaac Haas was dominant in that sense. I think Trevion Williams isn't quite to that level, but I think he can be. He's the best passer for a big man, Purdue's had since Caleb Swanigan. I know that wasn't all that long ago, but I think Trevion Williams is an even more willing passer, if not too willing a passer sometimes. Purdue will run their offense through him. It could be kind of a point center thing sometimes, but Purdue needs him to be more aggressive and not look to pass first when he's only got one guy guarding him. He needs to be one of the top scorers, probably. Maybe not in the Big Ten, but he needs to be one of the best scoring big men in the league, obviously. But he also needs to make great decisions. He needs to not turn the ball over. He needs to hit shooters. Shooters need to make the shots. Shooters need to be ready to shoot. Purdue's guards have to get better, either by development for the guys returning or instant impact type of potential for the guys coming in to make him better too. Sometimes when Trevion Williams was inconsistent last season, he was deferring to the people around him, but the people around him maybe weren't quite ready to, carry the mail, so to speak. So Purdue just is going to play through the post as much probably next season as it has, but it is also going to be more balanced, I think, in the sense that you are going to have guards who are more empowered, who are better, and give you more flexibility. I think Jaden Ivey and Ethan Morton can transform Purdue. I think Brandon Newman can play a pretty prominent role for Purdue. I think Eric Hunter is going to be a much better player next year than he was this season, and he was a pretty good player this season. I think Sasha Stefanovic probably kind of is what he is from a developmental standpoint, but you can always get better from one year to the next. I think Isaiah Thompson can take a jump from one year to the next. Purdue should have a much better, much more equipped, and much more balanced backcourt situation going on next year than it did this year. So I think Trevion Williams in the middle can be complemented a little bit better. They just need to keep him on the floor as much as they can and get the best and most consistent play of his career to date. So that's going to be a really, really significant part of Purdue's season next season. But I think Purdue also just needs to be better around the basket. or they need to answer some questions around the basket and be good around the basket. I think Evan Boudreau obviously is a guy who's going to be missed. You saw in the back half of the season especially how profoundly impactful he could be. Can Purdue replace him? Not probably directly, but they can be good in other areas to probably make up for what they lost, the same way that they made up for, to a certain extent anyway, of what they lost in Grady Eifert the year before. I think that, obviously the forward position is up for grabs. Aaron Wheeler opened this past season as Purdue's starter there, did not end the season as their starter there. Obviously, I would not consider him a post player. I would not consider him an around-the-rim player. Although he was a productive rebounder this season, he is not a mix-it-up type of guy around the basket. That's not his strength. His strength is playing on the perimeter. Offensively, his strength is making open shots, although he obviously struggled to do that this season, but also getting out in the open floor using his athleticism. I would not qualify him as a post player. I think Purdue has two physical presences that it can better leverage around the basket this season that I think it most likely will need to. I think Mason Gillis is a guy coming out of redshirt who is built like a bouncer and throws his body around willingly. He has the potential to be a pretty decent rebounder. He has the potential to be a really high energy sort of guy. I think he's physical enough, to throw his body around and be a pretty good rebounder in time. I think Nojel Eastern, provided he comes back, his name is in the NBA draft right now. I think obviously he's a guy who can play a lot of different positions and has. I think I could see him playing in the front court a little bit more next season, really using his physical advantages to his benefit. I think Purdue ideally wanted to do that, more of that this year. Why it didn't happen, I don't know. I think that Purdue would love to get him on the offensive glass as much as possible. Would love to get him, one-on-one around the basket against smaller players, more physical or less physical players. Let him shoot higher percentage shots, and then he has to make those higher percentage shots. Obviously, that's been kind of a mixed bag for him as well. But I think that Purdue would like to probably leverage those two bodies. If you picked, the first couple guys off the bus for Purdue next season, you could have quite a hearty debate. I think Mason Gillis and Nojel Eastern would be two of the guys you could seriously make a case for. Obviously, Tre'Van Williams would be up there as well. I think Brandon Newman would be up there. But I think you'd like to use Nojel Eastern. You'd like to use Mason Gillis. Get them some productivity around the basket a little bit as well, and that obviously sort of counts as de facto post play as well. Purdue needs to be really good around the basket next season. That will certainly be the goal, and that's what I got for today's Daily Quarantine. I can't believe how much the computer screen actually reflects in my glasses. I've never noticed that before. I hope that's not distracting, but anyway, Tuesday, May 5th. That's your goldenblack.com Daily Quarantine Simulcast for today. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for reading our stuff at goldenblack.com. Thank you for listening to this, if you're listening to this on our platform. If you're accessing this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. You'll want to get this stuff ASAP as soon as the world starts spinning again and more Purdue stuff starts filtering through there. This has been, once again, brought to you by Fox Purdue Bookstores, Purdue Federal Credit Union, the 6th Street Dive Restaurant, First Source Bank, East End Grill, and the Charters Team Remax Ability Plus. Want to remind you once again, if you're looking for a damn good dinner or just to support our local businesses or both, please check out the 6th Street Dive Restaurant in Lafayette, East End Grill in Lafayette, Arnie's in West Lafayette, and all over the state, Bruno's in West Lafayette, and the Whitaker Inn in West Lafayette. All of them remain open for carry-out orders. All of them would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear that they heard from you. So keep them in mind, everybody. Thanks a lot.